the security, well, I can clarify. It was the security audit a disciplinary, I'm sorry?
Go ahead, clarify.
Was the security audit a disciplinary investigation?
No.
Would you investigate retired employees for misconduct?
No, we never do unless it's an allegation that falls under the Prison Rape Elimination Act.
Okay, so when this current when the current secretary became aware of this improperly installed stun fence, was there any policies or procedures that prohibited him from recommending that a disciplinary investigation be started?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit here. You also testified earlier that one of the allegations, potential allegations for Ms. Novak was she was aware that Holly Zimdahl, which was a kitchen worker, had engaged in misconduct and failed to place Holly Zimdahl on administrative leave. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay, and isn't it true that the warden, as the appointing authority, has ultimate responsibility for placing one of her staff members on administrative leave?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
Well, you can ask the witness her body of knowledge if she would know that.
Well, did you look into that fact while you were supervising this investigation? Who's ultimately responsible for placing an employee in an institution on administrative leave?
Yes.
And who is ultimately responsible for placing an employee in administration at an institution on administrative leave?
The appointing authority or warden, typically.
Okay. So would Doug Percy be responsible for placing an employee at Columbia Correctional Institution on administrative leave?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
You know that from your investigation or from your work with the respondent?
Sure. So typically, no, it's not the responsibility of the assistant administrator. It falls on the appointing authority.
Okay. Judge, again, same exhibit, Exhibit 12. Can you go to page 155 for me, please? I'm sorry. Let me back up before I ask you to do that. I'm sorry, Judge. It's been a long day. Can I ask you to go to Respondent's Exhibit 27 first, please, Judge?
That's a new exhibit, isn't it?
I think it was entered earlier, but I believe it was actually on the first day. I could be wrong, but I thought it was.
Oh, yes, it is. I see here. Okay, good. Then I don't have to mark it. All right.
Okay. So if you could just scroll down, actually 2 more pages, because Judge, this is an email string that, it's one of those strings that starts at the bottom. So that where it says sent from my iPhone, that's where it ends. But yeah, it's a little clunky. If you could just stop there, Judge, thank you. Ms. Preston.
So we're on Respondent's Exhibit 27.
Yes.
And we are it's a 3-page document. We're right now looking at 1209. Go ahead.
Correct. Ms. Preston, do you recognize this email?
Yes.
And Judge, if you could just give her could you take a few minutes just to read it to yourself?
Sure.
I don't know how long it's been since you've seen it.
Okay. I'm caught up to thanks. Okay, I've read it.
Okay, and Judge, if you could just scroll again to the bottom of the previous page. Right there is good, Judge. So who is this email to and who is it from?
So it appears to be from Stu Novak at a personal email address to Secretary Carr at his DOC email address.
And when was this email sent?
It states May 3rd, 2020 at 10:45 a.m.
Okay. And does this email mention Doug Percy at all?
It does.
And it doesn't mention Doug Percy and Holly Zimdahl.
It does.
And what, if you could just give us a summary or maybe even read it, what does it say about Doug Percy and Holly Zimdahl?
Stu Novak states that she called Doug Percy a week prior to the escape to specifically talk about Holly Zimdahl and the evidence that she had on her at the time, as she was struggling whether or not to put her on leave.
Okay. Judge, if you could scroll up just a little bit more, please. Right there is good. So according to this email string, it looks like Secretary Carr forwarded this to Amy Pahacek, correct?
Yes, it
And
appears.
who's Amy Pahacek?
At the time, she was the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Corrections.
And I think you also testified she was your direct supervisor?
That's correct.
Okay, Judge, if you could scroll up just a little bit more, please. Right there is good. So Ms. Pahacek forwarded it to who?
She forwarded it to me.
And what is that? What's the date of that email?
Monday, May 4th, 2020.
Okay, and one more time, Judge, if you could just scroll up just a little bit, right there. And what did you do with the email once you got it?
It looks like I forwarded it on Tuesday, May 19th to Joe Sonnenberg and Matt Polson, who are the DOC investigators.
Okay, and why did you forward it on to Joe Sonnenberg and Matt Polson?
I'm assuming I forwarded it on because it had relevance to the case that they were working on.
Okay. So we addressed some of Doug Percy's interviews that he gave during the course of your internal affairs investigation into Miss Novak, correct?
Yes.
And do you recall whether Doug Percy ever denied speaking with Miss Novak about Holly Zimdahl?
From when I reviewed, he didn't deny speaking to her about kitchen staff, I guess.
Okay. Judge, again, if you could go to Exhibit 12, page 467 for me, please.
Right, we're back on response exhibit 12.
Yeah,
we're
and-
on page 467.
Sorry, yeah, if you could just start there. So, Ms. Preston, do you recognize this document?
Yes, it appears to be a 15807C of an witness interview with Doug Percy.
Okay, and what is the date of this interview?
May 20th, 2020.
So this occurred after you forwarded the investigator the email we just discussed, correct?
Yes.
And is Mr. Percy listed as a witness or a subject in this?
He's listed as a witness.
Okay. And Judge, if you could scroll down just a little bit for me, please. Same page, just a little bit further down. Question and answer 1. Actually, if you could scroll all the way down to question and answer, I don't know if it'll fit. Okay, yeah, right there. So if you could just read question and answer 1, does that, well, if you could just read that and then tell me what that pertains to, please.
Sure. Okay.
And could you just sort of give me a brief summary of what was discussed there?
Sure. So Doug Percy was asked if he was aware at any point of the concerns that CCI had or any evidence they had regarding Holly Zimdahl. And he said he was aware of concerns that they had in the kitchen, but he couldn't remember the name of the person.
Okay, so he's certainly not denying that he had conversations with Ms. Novak about kitchen staff, correct?
Correct.
Judge, if you could scroll down to question and answer 7, just on the next page for me, please.
We're on page 468 of Response Exhibit 12.
And Ms. Preston, if you could just read that for me, not out loud, just to yourself.
Okay.
Is this the interview from the 20th?
I think so.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So again, does Mr. Percy acknowledge having conversations about kitchen staff in that answer?
Yes, he does.
Okay. So getting back to the internal affairs investigation, and I'm trying to summarize what's already been testified to, but Ms. Novak obviously indicated that she spoke with Doug Percy regarding Holly Zimdahl, correct?
Yes.
And Doug Percy may not have had a specific recollection of it, but he certainly didn't deny that he spoke with Ms. Novak about Holly Zimdahl, correct?
Correct.
So if two people acknowledge that they spoke about kitchen workers or could have spoken about kitchen workers, would it be necessary for you to pull phone records of one of those two individuals to determine whether or not they spoke?
No.
And even if you had pulled phone records, what would the phone records have revealed?
I guess what we already knew, that they both agreed that they had a phone conversation.
Would it have revealed the substance of any phone conversations?
No.
So I want to shift gears here a little bit. There was some testimony about, work rules, when the work rules are recommended, and how that can change throughout the process. And like the judge said, this is day 3 of this hearing, so maybe I wasn't following you. Maybe I wasn't paying as close attention as I should have been, although I certainly was trying to. But there seemed to be some confusion as to that process. So I don't want to go over or rehash that, in depth or in detail. But again, can you just sort of go over the investigation? So my understanding is the investigation is complete, correct? And then the investigator would draft the summary investigative report, which would contain the potential work rule violations. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, so if you could
Okay,
just
so
explain.
1 second.
Sorry.
1 second. Am I stopping sharing?
Yes, you can stop sharing right now, Judge. Thank you.
Okay, and then if you'll make sure you're careful about leading the witness.
Yeah, I'm just trying to sort of set up the foundation where I'm going here.
Well, sometimes that foundation might end up being you leading them to say things that they maybe didn't say quite when they were talking.
Okay, understood. So I think where I left off was the investigation is complete and the investigator drafts the summary investigative report, correct?
That's correct.
And that report contains potential work rule violations?
Yes, or none, depending on what they recommend.
Right. In this particular case, it obviously did. But I just want to be clear. We don't know what the investigator recommended in this case, correct?
That's correct.
Because the summary investigative report that we have, and I can have you bring it up again, Judge, if you need, but that's not the version of the report that the investigator created, correct?
I guess I don't know if anything was changed or not. So it could be or it couldn't be.
It could have changed. Okay.
So I mean, she's even declining his offer to be led here, Judge. I mean, seriously.
I'm sorry, what?
The witness just declined Mr. Muhlenbach's offer to be led here. I mean, she
Okay,
testified
so
what
I
she actually
just-
knew as opposed to what he was inviting her to testify to. I mean,
So
At some point,
I
we're
don't
getting
think
over
he
that
was
line.
trying to lead her at this point, but I would still caution him not to lead her. And I think we've already had this testimony from this witness more than once, like Mr. Cross asked it many several ways. I've gotten this testimony. I don't think I need to hear it again. So let's stop.
Okay, well, that's fine. So we don't need to go through the process of, of how it proceeds then, but you had mentioned that the work rule violations could change along the process. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And could you just briefly describe again for me how those changes could be made, when it's proper for those changes to be made?
Sure. So if there's a work rule, well, I guess conversely, either way, if there's no work rule recommendation, or if there is work rule recommendations from the investigator to me, sometimes I change them by either adding or removing work rules or adding or removing language to support the recommended work rules. And then once I submit it, it can get changed following or during, I guess, the infraction review team, the IRT, based on the discussion or the decision from that team. Once, though, it goes to pre-dis, they don't change in terms of what the work rules are, because those have to be obviously shared with the subject. I do know, even though I don't have really a role in discipline, that they can be dropped off then when it comes to discipline. So while you may have sat through as a subject sat through a pre-disciplinary meeting and known the work rules that you have been said to violate, they could then drop off and you could be disciplined under, lesser work rules, I guess is the easiest way to say it.
Okay. And I guess I just want to back up here a little bit. So my question now is going to focus on the investigation is still ongoing, okay? I know I'm shifting a little bit here, but just to sort of get you back on, or get you on track where I'm at. So if during the course of an investigation, it is revealed that others may have committed misconduct, could you recommend that an investigation be started into those individuals?
Sure. So, that happens somewhat frequently. And what I do is I forward the information of potential concern to the appointing authority or whoever's in charge of that investigation. And they then make a determination if that person will be under investigation or not.
Okay. And I guess I'll just be a little more blunt here. If your investigation, if the Ms. Novak investigation had revealed that Doug Percy had committed misconduct, could you have referred that to the appointing authority to open or start an investigation into Doug Percy?
Yes.
But that didn't occur here to your knowledge, correct?
Correct.
Why not?
Because there was no item of concern that I felt that I needed to bring to anyone's attention. And also they were reviewing the information themselves. And if they felt there was an item of concern, they would have referred an investigation to me.
So they could have done it on their own initiative without your referral. Am I understanding you correctly? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So you also testified earlier before the lunch break that you provided, I think you actually called it high level status updates on Ms. Novak's investigation to Secretary Carr. Do I recall? Did you say that?
Yes.
Okay. And you had mentioned, well, I don't want to, could you just very briefly again describe what those conversations entailed?
Sure. So I wouldn't recall the specific conversations, but if you want, I can let you know what I consider a high level update to be.
Yes, please do.
Sure. So a high level update to me is like a status of the case. So for example, it would be, we've interviewed 3 witnesses. We're interviewing the subject tomorrow. Any kind of information that wasn't previously known in the allegation that is of importance that I would share. Like, for example, a lot of times I share in cases, I'll just use the case of like off-duty misconduct or even on-duty misconduct. If criminal charges are going to be filed, those are high-level updates that I would give to the secretary.
Sure. Okay. And during those conversations that you had with Secretary Carr, did he ever tell you that he was looking or hoping for a particular outcome in Ms. Novak's investigation?
No, he did not.
Did anybody ever tell you that they were hoping or looking for a particular outcome in Ms. Novak's investigation?
No,
Did Secretary Carr ever direct you or your office to interview any specific individuals related to Ms. Novak's investigation?
no,
Did anybody do that?
no,
Did Secretary Carr prohibit you or your office from interviewing any individuals related to Ms. Novak's investigation?
no,
Did anybody do that?
no.
Okay, Judge. If I could just take a brief look at my notes, I may be able to wrap this up.
Go ahead.
Ms. Preston, did you interview Ms. Novak based on her gender?
No,
What was the reason that you investigated Ms. Novak?
because she was identified as a subject of the investigation by the DEI administrator.
And that was for the information that was contained in the 15807 that we addressed earlier, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, I think I'm done. I just want to confirm that respondents exhibits 12 and 27 have already been admitted. I believe they are. I just wanted to double check.
Yes, they were both admitted on the first day.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, that's all I have, Judge. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Cross, Mr.
Let's do it. All right. So
Cross, and we're going to do any redirect. Go ahead.
yeah. So you've got you saw this exhibit 27, which is this email that Kevin Carr sent you from Sue Novak discussing specifically the fence issue and the Doug Percy issue, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then as we went through, that was sent to you from Ms. Pacek the next day, right?
Yes, I believe that's what it said.
But you didn't send it to Mr. Sonnenberg or Mr. Polson until the 19th, right?
Yes.
Why not? What's the
I
reason?
don't recall. I'm not sure if I had showed it to them prior to that or not.
Okay. So you testified earlier that Ms. Novak was placed on administrative leave and that decision wasn't yours, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and that happened prior to your receiving the 15807?
I'm not sure. I'd have to check the dates on that.
Okay. So, Judge, this is there are 10. I've got the pages because I just got their thing in the mail here. And this is page 123 of their exhibit packet.
Okay, so I'm not sure. Is this an exhibit? Is that going to be the
This is an
front
exhibit.
page?
It's Respondents Exhibit 10, Exhibit 9, I should say, and it's on page 123.
Okay, so I have to mark this. Okay, 1 second. Then I'm going to mark it first.
Oh, not discipline. I'm right. I'm in R9. And I have the right page number. It's page 110, but I'll repeat that.
I'm sorry, what document did you say it is? What,
This
9?
is R9, yeah, 9,
Okay, good.
page 110.
All right, well, first I'm marking it for my log.